Hello, everyone, and welcome to Smashbox TV's podcast 411. Terry Miller, the Disc Golf Guy, alongside Johnny V.
I'm not sure if I should have gone to bed already or if I should be getting up for Sula tomorrow. I don't know why any of you guys are up right now when clearly you should be getting ready for Sula at like 6:30 or 7:30 in the morning.
Yes, as you're referencing, we've had a few things go back and forth. You also saw a couple announcements made, an email blast, and then a new update to the email blast. But the long and short of it is tomorrow morning at 7:30 a.m. Central Time, that's the only one I'm going to worry about right now, at 7:30 Central Time is when we're going to go live with the PCS Sula Open. Figure it out from there, whatever time zone you're in from there. But 7:30 Central is the time we're going live. And by we, of course, we're going to have crews here in the States, and we also then have a dozen or so people, at least, overseas that are going to be making it happen. And it's a 4-round Silver Series event spanning 2 different courses in Norway.
Yeah, there was a little bit of a scare earlier this week when I know half of our guys went over there. The other half stayed here to cover the LWS. And the equipment, the $40, $50, $60, $70,000 in equipment that we used to broadcast the show got diverted in Amsterdam. It was, I wouldn't say lost, but it was delayed. And apparently there's some huge sort of airline...
Well, there's strikes, there's there's management, there's shutting down, there's a little bit of everything, I think, taking place in the airline industry right now.
For sure on this side, but even overseas we're seeing some of that at some of those ones. So ultimately they were very nervous that the equipment wasn't going to make it. My understanding is that it showed up this morning and we are ready and raring to go for better or worse, I would say. Yeah. I wouldn't mind not going to tomorrow. I'm not going to lie after tonight's podcast probably, but I'll be up and early. It's 5:30 in the morning or
That's
something.
That's how we got to roll.
That's what we got to
do. We are here for you guys, and tonight we're going to have a very special guest. In fact, we're not going to delay it anymore. We've got a lot of things to talk about and a lot of good stuff going on, including recapping the incredible performance and action out of this man, your champion from the LWS Idlewild Open, presented by Dynamic Discs. We've got Isaac Robinson. How you doing tonight, buddy?
Doing great. How are you, Terry?
Good. And, I know we had just a few seconds to chat, to get you all tested up here, but how compare the last Monday and Tuesday compared to this Monday and Tuesday? What's been the difference for you?
Oh, man. Let's see. I've gained about 2,500 Instagram followers.
Okay. One of which is me. Yep.
Responded to hundreds of messages. Been on my phone all day, just answering text messages, responding, all of that stuff. Posting pictures. Been very busy.
Again, these are all the the challenges or whatever you want to call it with becoming a champion of an event of this scale. You've won before. You've played very well before, but again, largest paycheck and largest win of your career. 48 hours later, has it sunk in?
I think it's just starting to. Yeah. The 7-hour drive home. That's all I thought about.
And I got to assume your phone was probably just blowing up that whole time as well. And we all know you should be paying attention to the road, but your phone had to be just blowing up.
It was, yes. So many, just blown up all over the place.
Maybe just to dig into that for a moment, what has been the craziest either reach out or follow or just maybe even story or, anything that somebody shared with you or has come at you, I bet 10,000 on you on some sports betting today or something. Like, has there been anything absolutely crazy that has come across your desk?
Nothing too crazy. I think probably the most meaningful thing for me right now, I know Simon mentioned me in his story, Simon Lazat, and so that was pretty special, It's first time that's happened. So that was probably the one that stood out to me the most.
Yeah, and I think I saw that as well. He basically said that for you to play that consistently for a whole weekend is incredible. Was that the gist of it?
Yeah, that's basically all he said, which was very nice of him. It was just super cool. So,
I mean, you played anywhere from 25, it looks like, to 40 points over your rating this week, and
yeah.
I mean, hats off to you there. Idlewild is a unique course because it seems to always give us a different winner every year. For MPO at least, we haven't had a repeat winner. How did you feel going into the event? Like, did you feel you've been playing pretty well on the Pro Tour? I think 2 of them ago you were in 3rd place. The last one, 16th or so. How did you feel going in?
Yeah, actually, the day before, I think we mentioned this in the post-round interview, but my practice rounds leading up to it were quite horrible, actually. I shot 3 over and then 2 over, and then I think even par was my best one. So it was really not a whole lot of confidence there. I was feeling a little shaky, a little unsure of how this weekend was going to play out. But when round 1 hit, I guess the adrenaline kicked in, or the focus, or I don't know what it was, but things felt good.
Now this is your first time being here, and like you said, you're growing. This following is growing. Again, a lot of people that really know disc golf know just how good you are. But let's get into a little bit of your backstory so that everybody does know you a little bit better. We see you out there hugging your brother, who of course very competitive, but yet a solid player in his own right. Talk to us about your beginnings of disc golf. Like, when did you or your brother get involved?
Yeah, so we've been playing for close to, probably 15 or 16 years at this point. So we, grew up playing the sport. It was something my dad really enjoyed, and so he would just drag us out to the park. And then, at the beginning, me and Ezra would play junior tournaments in Georgia together. A lot of times it was just us two in the divisions. So it grew to be a very competitive thing between Ezra and I. And it's just continued till this, till this point, till today. In pretty much any C tier, B tier in Georgia, it's usually us two in the top, battling it out. And so, yeah, he pushes me. He encourages me to be better. And I hate losing to him. Like, there's nobody I like losing to. But Ezra's the worst to lose to, in my opinion.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
What is, obviously you got the best of him this weekend, but how, do you guys have any kind of running tally? I guess we should go to Statmando probably and look you guys up. But how do you feel like your head-to-head battle usually looks?
Man, usually it's I gotta say it's about 50-50. This year I know I've beaten him more than he's beaten me, but I know 2 years ago he was whooping the junk out of me. So it goes back and forth.
All right, so I guess I can look. I'm gonna see both of you here. I'm gonna punch you guys. Have you ever looked at each other on Statmando?
A while ago.
Okay,
Yeah.
so real quick, I just pulled it up, and your brother against you. He is 27, 35, and 1. So you have, we'll say, an 8 event advantage. Yeah, you're 35, 27, and 1 against him.
Close in the wins. You have 15 wins. He has 13.
Okay.
Seconds, you have 15. He has 10. Thirds, you have 4. He has 3. And then your top 10 percentage for the two of you, this is crazy.
Wow.
You're both 73.02%. On the nose. Like, top 10 percentage is identical.
That's crazy.
And then when you, to give the full credit to Statmando, let me do a quick subtraction here. You, when you guys are head-to-head in, what is that, 63 version in 63 appearances together, you have thrown 142 less strokes.
Okay.
I mean,
that checks out for you, right? You're better.
Yeah. That sounds right to me.
Sorry, Ezra. That's why he's here and you're not.
So you guys played early on, very, of course, in Georgia. Who were some of the people? My Georgia history is a little older than even you, but who were some of the people in Georgia that either you looked up to or you at least had maybe as a reference point or saw at tournaments often that you could either emulate or aspire to be like?
Yeah, I mean, local pros that I just have to shout out. Matt Dollar. Growing up, I've been playing with him for, probably like watching him play for 10 years now. He's been around since the beginning. Josh Childs, he's one. Doesn't really play anymore, but had a huge impact on me. Kevin McCoy, he's been around for as long as I can remember. Those three guys really had a big impact on my just growing up in the sport, growing around it.
Funny, because if I were to name three guys from Georgia, those would have been been everyone I would have guessed. And then there's some of the older guard. When you think of what Brian Graham has done, not maybe as much as a competitive player, but what Brian Graham has done as a TD,
running worlds and such.
Yeah, and all of that kind of stuff, and Brad Hammock with some of his. But anyway, awesome. What's the age difference between you and your brother, and how old are you both?
So I'm 21 and he is 19, but there's an 18-month age difference. So
wow, okay.
Pretty close.
I guess I didn't realize that he was that much younger. And you've had a pretty crazy year, and I know we didn't even touch on it necessarily in your interview. There was a lot of things going on right after the fact, but you've had a pretty crazy year. Name some of the other accomplishments that you've collected in the last few months.
Yeah, I mean, graduating college, it's not disc golf related, but that was pretty big. I really enjoyed that. Portland Open, that was my first taste of what it was like to be on a league card, all 3 rounds, or I guess all 3 rounds. But yeah, it was Portland was pretty crazy. And then, I guess the Preserve too, getting the league card there, one of the rounds. So done a lot of, I guess 5th at Waco as well.
Yeah, you're not having too shabby of a year.
I mean, he took 16th at the Preserve or something. I don't remember what it was. So, I mean, honestly, no. So I have to ask, what did you graduate? What was your degree when you graduated college?
Yeah, so I graduated from Tacoma Falls College with a business administration degree.
Okay, and I mean, I know this was big talk a few years ago when Kelvin had just got his chemical engineering degree, and whether or not he was going to go on tour, or what did the future look like for Kelvin. We can kind of just throw that on you now. You have a degree. What does that look like for you? Does that look like disc golf as a summer job, or are you going to kind of put that degree on the back burner and kind of gung-ho and going on tour for the next 5 years? Like, how do you see that playing out?
Yeah, so I mean, that's where I'm at right now. I can't say I've nailed down a specific way I want to use that. But as far as I know, using a business degree in disc golf it can be helpful. Learning to grow your own brand, selling discs, marketing, stuff like that. So I think it's very useful, very applicable to the tour life. But as far as I know right now, the plan is to kind of stay on tour. And if I get tired of it or I don't want to do it anymore, settle down, buy a house somewhere, and use my business degree to get a job.
What in particular, funny enough, and of course every school is a little bit different, but technically Johnny and I both also have business degrees from UW-Milwaukee, and that can mean such a wide range of things, and ours were both in computers with an emphasis on information systems. What specific area within business do you find most appealing?
I personally think marketing is just really cool. Just different ads, learning how to make ads, produce, put them out there. I think that's fascinating. So I really like that.
So did you then dabble in like some psychology as well, or was that all kind of under the umbrella of marketing? Or
Yeah, I touched a little bit on psychology in some of the marketing classes that I took, but yeah, for the most part, didn't do much outside of business.
so backing up, and I think about Prodigy specifically as one of the younger companies. Of course, came about actually 2013, but it was just very different in how the company not only formed, but who was on the team, and then also the sponsorship in how it worked, and then that kind of had a ripple effect into the entire disc golf industry, and really kind of shook things up quite a bit. Of course, having some bearings and roots and ties to Georgia, I guess I can make a correlation on my own or a connection. But talk about why Prodigy, when Prodigy, and your relationship with them.
Yeah, so being Prodigy being located in Georgia, obviously, when they first came out, I bought a bunch of their discs, threw them a lot, but I only had like one or two in the bag. But then I got to play with Will Shoestrick at a couple local tournaments, and he was just really nice. We got to play on a doubles team for a skins match one time, and that was pretty cool. And after that tournament, he messaged me and Ezra, and just asked us to be on the team. He actually sent us a disc and asked, wrote on the disc, "Will you be on Team Prodigy?" And I still have that. So
That's awesome.
Yeah, so that was back in 2016. So that was my first year with Prodigy, 2016.
Which was 6 years ago, which would have made you like 15 or 16 years old.
Yep, 15.
And Ezra like 13 or 14. Wow.
Yep.
I mean, clearly Will had a vision and a sight. He was able to pick some talent out a long time ago, because at that age, I mean, you're kids. Anything can happen. We've seen it before. We've seen prodigies that look like they're gonna not pun intended, come out and light the world on fire, and then they get distracted from disc golf, whether it's school or girls or life or other sports, and just don't show up. But Will was able to pick you out just from one round or one event, so to speak.
Yep.
Yeah. What does it look like? I know you just talked about your plan and potentially having, of course, your degree to fall back on. What right now does your touring plan look like, and has it changed at all in the last few months with the recent successes you've had, and the increased exposure and everything else? Has anything changed from a few months ago to where you are right now?
Absolutely, yeah. Going out on tour back in May, I was like, I'll give it a try for the summer, see if it goes anywhere. It's something I like to do. I get to see some cool places out west. And I was like, I'll just make a road trip out of it, But after Portland, after Idlewild, specifically Idlewild, I'm considering, doing full-time next year and actually, just going all in. So,
which makes perfect sense. I mean, how does that, like, you essentially beat all the best players in the world? I mean, okay,
that's what happens when you take first, Terry. You beat
I know,
everyone.
but I'm saying, like, okay, you could argue Kelvin wasn't there and maybe KJ or whatever, but I mean, you beat everyone there, and what does that say about both your confidence and yeah, just your overall confidence?
Yeah, it really boosted the confidence. Just going out there, I was feeling confident in the putting, feeling confident in the mid-range shots. But after taking home the win from especially Chris Dickerson, I think he's got to be the best player in the world right now, and it was terrifying to have him chasing me down. I can't even explain what that feeling felt like. But yeah, a huge confidence booster coming out on top.
Yeah, it didn't look like you were showing too much nerves up until maybe 18, is I think we kind of saw it, and by then you pretty much had it wrapped up, which is funny. But at that point, I think we could kind of see the emotion on your face, whether it was relief or still nervous. When did you feel like you kind of had this mostly under control? Like, at what point did you think, okay, I think I have this?
Man, I'd have to say that the upshot on 18. You know, even though the drive was dead center, and Chris was at best taking a par, as soon as I threw the shot out the gap, I was like, all right, I can relax a little bit. I can breathe. I can begin to get excited. Up until that point, I just tried to suppress all the emotions and not get ahead of myself. But when that shot flew out the gap, it was definitely, I did it, you know?
I mean, we see that hole, you know, last year, that hole was just a throw or two away from becoming, you know, one of the most congested playoffs of all time, you know, with so many people crunched up at the top. And, you know, the fact that a 3 is obviously a great score, 4 no one's complaining about. If you said, hey, I'll give you a 4 on that every round, I think every player would be like, yeah, that's cool. I'll just finish out with a par. But the fact that you went into it with a 3-stroke lead and then you threw a perfect tee shot, I was like, well, man, I could finish this out left-handed.
I'll give you this. It wasn't a perfect tee shot. We saw from the catch cam, it tailed off a little left. You got a little bit of tree love that kicked you right into the center, because not that I think you would have been at most 7 feet off the fairway, honestly, the way it was coming in. But that extra little tree kick, at that point, I'm sitting here behind the computer and I go, all right, it's this dude's day. Like, it doesn't matter. Everything's going his way. Everything's coming up Isaac.
So I guess maybe there's a question in there, which is, have you gone back to watch any footage, live or post or anything? Have you gone back to relive any of it?
Absolutely.
Nice.
In fact, I don't know if I should say this, but I watched both of the Jomez rounds on the way home while I was driving. So I put the phone up on the dash, you know, put my speaker on, you know, watch the road and watch Jomez at the same time. So,
kids, don't try this at home.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't recommend.
So I'll follow that up and say, was there any commentary that was either just dead wrong or you know, just anything that you were like, no, that's not really what happened, you know? And I'm not just looking for a mistake, but was there anything that was out of sorts at all within the commentary throughout the weekend?
No, I mean, Jeremy and Ulibarri did a great job. Philo and Ian, of course, great as usual. It was funny just hearing their comments about hole 17 and the putt that I made. Everybody, from what it sounded like, everyone expected me to lay it up.
I thought you were.
But I knew, I knew that 2 strokes going into 18, that would still be terrifying. It's so easy to bogey that hole, and I did not want to be in a playoff with Chris. So I had to shut it down right there.
Well, and it's funny because I'm sitting here behind this computer, and I forget who putted out. Was it Chris that putted right before you?
Yeah.
But we had like a couple cameras focused on him because we felt like, hey, his putt's really important. If he drops this in, you know, we're gonna have a ball game. And you just walked up and like just threw it in. You barely took any time. I mean, you're not a slow player as it is, but we literally almost missed your shot because we had one camera focused on you, and thankfully, camera 7, shout out to you, was still pointed at you because every other camera was almost focused on Chris. When you walked up and threw it, I literally out loud said, I think he just laid that up because it was so fast. And our Gary, our replay guy's like, no, dude, he just put that in. And I was like, why would he do that? Because I mean, there's so much danger on 17, as everyone says. You go off you hit off the top, you're OB. You hit off the side and roll. You could bounce over those little wooden posts or whatever they're considered and go OB. I mean, but the way you've been putting, were you just inside or just outside the circle there?
Watching the coverage, I think I was just outside.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that didn't phase you. You just thought, I'm going to put this in, and
Yeah. I was just like, I need to put this in. I'm going to put it in, close it out right here.
okay.
I mean, it definitely was a bold move, and it definitely was the right one. And if I recall, I was starting to walk all the way. I was starting to walk toward 18 already. I remember just kind of waiting and looking, and then like, oh yeah, he's okay. So he's running that. Okay, yeah. And then it was like dead center, at least from what I could tell. I was like,
there's no doubt.
Game, set, match. I mean, that's it. You have 3 strokes going into hole 18. So a good question off the board was, do you have other sports interest or background for growing up or even now? Is there anything else you either follow or that you're
high
part
school
of?
or anything like that? Did you play any sports in high school or?
No, disc golf has been it basically my whole life. So, I love playing ultimate frisbee. I think that's great, but I'm not spectacular at it or anything. Just do it for fun. But yeah, disc golf is it.
That makes sense. And what is your? I think of you guys as like this dynamic duo. So I apologize if there's a lot of questions about your brother. But is he? Does he have similar aspirations? Is he going to school, or does he want to hit the road with you? Would you guys consider traveling together full time? Like how is that working out? Obviously, you're close with him.
Yeah, so he's actually married. He got married back in December of last year. So he's, right now he's working, a day job and playing disc golf, which is why he's not getting a lot of time to practice. So he's not performing at the best of his abilities, but he's still very very good player. I know he really wants to go on tour next year. He's looking for an RV or a van that he and his wife can live out of. And if that's the case, if they do find one, then we'll be definitely touring together in separate vehicles, of course. But yeah.
Well, so I guess that's a good question is, you said you're looking at next year, you're looking at this as a full-time. What does a rig or travel life look like for you? Van, RV, camper. What does it look like for you?
Prius, who knows?
Yeah, Prius.
Yeah. So for me, right now I have a Ford Transit Connect.
Okay.
Just a little tiny cargo van. That thing is working great. I'm just short enough to fit inside it with a bed. Got plenty of storage. I'd like to have some solar panels. I don't have those yet, but during the off season, I'm going to deck it out a little bit more, make it a little more easier to live out of. But yeah, I mean, I love my van right now. It's just what I want.
Okay. And, I just looked a moment ago. I believe after you've captured 100 points, I see you sitting in 17th on the Disc Golf Pro Tour. Obviously, there was a handful of events, we see that you don't have points for. So a lot of what you're doing, these next couple of events can move you up.
Yeah, assuming he takes top 20 or so, he'll bump up ahead of Nico and maybe Matty O as well. But I think Matty O is going to be on the tour quite a bit from here on out.
Yeah. So what is the Pro Tour and the rest of the season? I don't want to say what does it look like for you, but what kind of goals and aspirations do you have? And have those even upped in the last 48 hours?
Yeah, I mean, obviously making it to the finale in Charlotte is a goal going at the start of the season was my goal. And I think I've got that pretty locked up by this point, especially with a couple events coming up. I mean, my biggest goal is to win USDGC. That's one I'd give anything to win that tournament. So every time I practice, I'm practicing holes in my mind at that course, just preparing for the first week of October.
Do you put more emphasis? I mean, and maybe there's the answer. Do you feel like you put more emphasis on USDGC than even Worlds?
Absolutely, yeah. I'd much rather have a U.S. title at that course than I would a Worlds title.
That's a somewhat uncommon for somebody who doesn't have either, I feel like that's an uncommon take. And why so passionate about the USDGC in that course?
Yeah, I mean, that's I got to play that course in 2014 at the Performance Flight, back when they had that.
Yep.
And I've just loved being out there ever since. It's my family makes a vacation out of it. We go every year since 2014. And I just love that place. It's got a special place in my heart. So I would love to win there one day.
Now, if I'm looking at some PDGA stuff, if your rating went up, everybody posts about it, and all of a sudden you care. And when it doesn't, most people don't say anything. How does it feel to open up the PDGA today, and ratings were released, new update as of today, and your rating has gone down 5 points to 1031, which is, of course, impressive. Does that feel silly? Do you even care? But what does that feel like?
Yeah, I knew it was going to go down because I didn't play very well the past 2 events.
Okay.
I didn't think it was going to go down that much, though. I was, not going to lie, a little disappointed. But at this point, this weekend, I don't really care. I got the win, and that's all that matters. So.
Yeah, I mean, if you can win Idlewild and they gave you 3 rounds rated 1,000, who cares? If you're sitting on top, right? I mean, looking at your schedule, it's almost exactly what we'd expect. We're not going to see you at the 2 international events, but then we see you at Mid America, D-Glow, and then Mid America, the Silver Series event, Ledgestone, Des Moines, Worlds. And then at that point, you're probably qualifying to get into both Maple Hill
and Maple Hill, GMC, as well as
GMC and Maple Hill are the 2 I was thinking about from a playoff perspective. So, I guess maybe we've arrived at it already. The thought of going overseas maybe feels different today than it did even 3 months ago, right?
Yes.
Okay. So not necessarily planning for it, not necessarily thinking of the funding and the support and everything else for it. Now it seems like, do you feel sad that you're missing out at this point, or no?
Yeah, actually, half an hour ago, I was talking to my dad. He was like, "You could make it." He's like, "You could try to sign up." And I was like, "Yeah." And now come to think of it, I really wish I had. I've never been out of the country, and that would just be such a cool opportunity. But I'm going to have to miss it this year. I'm going to try to do next year, though.
Okay.
That sounds like a lot of fun.
I mean, you have some Prodigy connections over there. Just make a few calls, buddy.
Your boy, Seppo, right? Your boy?
Hey, Seppo, I'm looking for some. You had a pretty darn good weekend in the circle. I mean,
it's all right.
You didn't miss one. Is that pretty accurate? I know these stats are relatively accurate, but you didn't miss one at all. Is that right?
Unfortunately, I'm going to have to say I did miss one, and which kind of stinks. But it was the hole one, the first round. It was probably about 7 inches inside the circle, and just looped out of the basket. First part of the day, first part of the tournament. So yeah, I was thankful for the stat guy though, because he did give me the 100%. So shout out to him.
Yeah, well, he clearly thought you were, that step outside of the circle, and therefore and that's all part of it too. I mean, these are never going to be 100% perfect.
Like his putting,
like your putting, or at least your stat anyway. But well, I guess good on you for recognizing that it was that close. What is it about your putting? I mean, obviously it's deadly, but you said that you practice it, but walk us through kind of like the mental checklist of what you're doing when you're so successful on the green.
Yeah, so obviously lots of practice, like I said. Honestly, I'm just looking at the basket. I'm feeling confident because, putting is probably, it's definitely, I would say 90% mental. If you're feeling confident, if you're feeling like you're going to make the putt, well, then just make the putt. There's no point in trying to convince yourself otherwise. And so that's the mentality I take. Inside the circle, I feel very confident, very much like it's just right there. Just put it in. And so that's the approach I take.
And yet, you just couldn't be more opposite of one of your teammates, another young superstar in Gannon, in that he clearly, and he's also a very successful putter, clearly, but just a totally different approach in terms of getting himself set up, double checking the winds, double checking his hands, and making sure that he's going through his routine, sometimes within the allotted time, sometimes not, but just a very different approach. Are you ever sitting there like watching him or any other player thinking, man, what are they thinking about? What are they doing? Just throw. Are you ever thinking that?
Sometimes, yeah. I'd say, everybody rags on Nico, but there's been a couple times where I'm like, just putt it, Nico. Like you've got the skill, just put it in there. And so sometimes I wonder what Nico's thinking. But other than that, people have their routine, and that's good. It's good to have a routine. I've been working on getting one of my own that's a little more like a routine instead of just stepping up to putt.
Yeah, I don't know why you're thinking about changing anything.
I was going to say, I'm looking at the season stats here. You're number one in C1X putting at 91%. So you are, statistically, the best putter on tour. Don't mess with that.
Yeah.
And we all love it. We all love a fast putter, trust me. Right in front of Justin Anderson, Sias Elmore, and then some guy named Paul McBeth. So those are the top four right now.
Nice.
Wow. You don't have to worry about him. He can shoot course records, and he still isn't,
catching you.
No, and it's funny, real quick on Nico too. You often hear him say he'll maybe sometimes deliberate, and then one of the if he does miss, he'll blurt out and say like, just putt it already. Like he's talking to himself, and it's like as if he's talking himself out of it, or it's a self-doubt thing. Because you go out to the putting green, you've seen him. He goes out to the putting green, and he'll throw in 10 60-footers all in like 7 seconds. It's like, hey, just do more of that.
He's got the skill for sure.
So speaking of the final round, and again, everyone kind of utilizes UDisc and live scoring and the physical scoreboard all a little bit differently. But the likes of Paul McBeth, starting out, I think 9 under on the first 8 holes, and any other hot scores. I mean, are you paying attention to anyone else? I know you said you were concerned about Chris, understandably, but are you paying attention about what anyone else is doing?
Paul McBeth for sure. He's got a history of just shooting lights out last round, and all I had to say when I checked live scores, I showed them to somebody and I was like, I'm glad I'm a million strokes ahead of him because I don't want to have to deal with Paul either. So I calculated it in my head, and even if he shot 18 down, all I would have to do is shoot like 3 down to beat him. And I was like, all right, this is where it feels good.
That is an incredible feeling, and honestly, not one that people can often say. It's like, well, if Paul shoots perfect, I only have to, pick up a handful or so. Rarely are people in that position, which I guess also then says how out of position he really was. But there's clearly been something about him lately that, getting off to a slow start and then makes this charge super late in the tournament.
We all did the math in the control room, by the way, because when we were about to go live, he was like 8 for 8, and we're all like, ugh, like we have to go cover him because you have to cover him. You have to follow him then because there's always the chance he's going to shoot that 17 or 18 or whatever he's going to shoot. And of course, we send a camera out and he goes ice cold. But that's what we do to people.
You're welcome, Isaac. Yeah, you're welcome. You said your practice rounds were nowhere near what your competitive rounds were. Did you think and realize though that you had like double digits in you every day, or something of that average?
No, the first day, the conditions weren't great. The first day it was a little rainy, and I told somebody 5 to 7 down would be a great score. So that's all I was shooting for. I was shooting for between that 7 to 9 range, and ended up shooting 11. So it was above and beyond my expectations for sure.
Some I don't want to say usual suspects, but because this is so incredibly competitive. But then Klein, of course, defending champ, ultimately does come in with a 10 on that first round. Did you ever think anything of like, oh, well, maybe this guy's got this course figured out? Was that ever a concern, or are you not worried about anyone else's scores?
I try not to worry about other people's scores. Just try to focus on my own game. But yeah, definitely like having James and Kyle and Gannon all right there. Both James and Kyle fell off a little bit during the second round, and that's when I started to feel a little more comfortable. Just kind of separated me and Gannon from the field, and it was definitely a little bit of breathing room, but never, you never feel comfortable out there with everybody as good as they are.
No, and then knowing, 16 can be anywhere from an eagle 3 to a bogey 6, depending if you find OB once or twice. And then 17, again, anything from a 2 to a 5. And then 18, anything from a 3 to a 6, and everywhere in between. So there is no resting out there whatsoever, that's for sure. It's interesting to hear you. Well, just you played so well there, but then to hear you talk about USDGC's course, which I think almost couldn't be any more different. So I have to know what is your favorite course or your favorite style of course, possibly.
I really like a mix of open and wooded. A good combination. USDGC is definitely up there. My favorite course to date, I think, is the Preserve, and I played it for the first time this year. And when I set foot out there, I was like, "Holy cow, this is incredible!" So that's definitely in my top 3 favorite courses.
I never want this to sound like I don't love it, but as people talk more and more about the Preserve, I always wonder, especially because I don't have those skills. Do people love it because everything is so birdieable? Is that part of what the appeal maybe is a better way to word that?
Yeah, I think just the property, it being located right on the Mississippi River, just the woods, the fields, the atmosphere of the place. Of course, I'm partial to Prodigy, so having it be a Prodigy event with them as the main sponsor. It was just a really unique experience, getting to hang out with the Prodigy family on a custom piece of property that somebody built. It was just incredible.
And to follow that up, often now we've seen some kind of commemorative disc or some kind of special release. Is something like that in the works for you, hopefully, with Prodigy for the win?
Actually, yeah. I believe they released today, actually.
Oh.
So they were on top of it, but they made an M1, a 750 M1, which is the yellow disc that I was throwing.
Yep.
and then my putters, they came out with pink 300 soft PA3s. So those should be available on the website at Prodigy for anybody who wants one.
I mean, they seem to work. Those putters really seem to work. So if you're looking to become a better putter, it can't hurt. It can't hurt to putt with whatever Isaac's putting with.
Yeah, I agree.
And then I excuse my ignorance. Are you on? I don't even know how they classify the various levels of team within Prodigy. Are you on the highest level? And if not, are you now?
So honestly, I'm not even too sure how they classify the team.
Okay, so I'm not an idiot then.
Yeah, I'm on the star team is how they put it.
Okay.
Which I believe is the top level.
Okay.
As far as I know. Yeah.
And okay, well then that answers that question. And I was going to say, if you haven't or you weren't, clearly that's where you certainly belong, which is incredible. Newer to the tour, but is there a section of either the country or courses yet that you haven't seen that you're particularly excited about? How did these next couple months shape up for you in that sense?
Yeah, I think I'm looking forward to Smuggler's Notch in Vermont. That course, I got the opportunity to play it like 2 or 3 years ago. Mm-hmm. It was just absolutely amazing. So I'm really looking forward to, hopefully, I'm sure I'll qualify for those. But getting to play those, I'm really looking forward to the New England side of the tour. So Maple Hill, Smuggler's Notch. places like that.
Okay. Now, this upcoming weekend.
For reference, real quick, it looks like you're part of the core team.
Okay. Well, that's cool.
Yeah, it's like you, Alden Harris, Austin, Kale, Gannon, Ezra, Heather. There's a whole bunch of you guys on there. That's the core team, and then below that's the tournament team, the ambassador team, the Prodigy team, and I believe they have a street team as well, and something they call Logan Weiss on the ungrouped team. I don't know. Sorry, Logan. Not sure what's going on there, but you are the ungrouped team.
You're on the website, man.
But yes, you are part of you're part of the core team.
Sweet. Well, you learn something new every day.
Smashbox exclusive. We're telling Isaac what sponsorship level he's at. So this upcoming weekend, I don't see you listed for a PDGA event. Do you have other things going on, or did you have a break scheduled? You said you're back home. What's going on?
Yeah, so one of my best friends for like past 15 years is getting married. So I'm in his wedding. I'm a groomsman, and it's this weekend. So he actually planned it for a break in the tour. So it was nice for him to do that, and so I get to be there and celebrate with him, be with him on that day.
Awesome.
That's a best friend.
Yeah,
right
I was
there.
just gonna say, making sure that the non-big tournaments are taking place, and then right after that, I see you registered for the Brent Hambrick, which is a long time event that's truly been around forever, probably 30 or maybe even almost 40 years, but at least 30 some years. That one, and then we have you going over to the D-Glow. Brent Hambrick worked out because it's kind of in that Ohio area on the way up to D-Glow, and was the biggest event that you could find. Was that the game plan there? And have you played it before?
I've never played it before, but it was on the way. I'd have a week in between, so yeah, I just wanted to play that one. So
awesome. Yeah, it's got a lot of history. Of course, a lot of good players we're seeing. Yourself, Joel Freeman, Bradley Williams, Corey Ellis, Andrew Presnell. So a bunch of people that you would kind of expect to see, for those that aren't overseas at least.
I mean, this probably sounds silly, but how did you feel about that trophy? Is that pretty cool, the giant propeller? I liked it quite a bit.
Yes, it was very cool. I didn't see it before the round started, so I didn't know what it looked like. And so when he came up with it, I was like, holy cow, this is sick.
Now, that's one that stays there, though, right? Or do you take that and bring it back, or that's the kind of the one they keep there?
I think that's the one they keep, yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
There was a small glass one that I believe is that'd be the traveling trophy as opposed to the stationary trophy. However that works,
Yep.
But yeah, pretty cool.
Yeah.
Looking at the schedule, like I said, you got the Brent Hambrick, and then everything else is pretty much lined up from there. Where playing again this year, name a place that you were like most comfortable, as in like, oh, I've been here before, or I know these courses. Where are you finding comfort on the tour?
Yeah, honestly, the first time this year was probably Idlewild.
Okay.
So I played it once 2 years ago, but every other course that I've played before then, I hadn't played at all. So it was all new territory there.
Okay.
So Idlewild was at least somewhat familiar, even though I'd only played it once before. So
we've seen so many different winners, and I know we talked about that a little bit, but why? Why are there so many different competitors there that are, and it's impossible to repeat almost? What can you pinpoint that to exactly, if anything?
yeah, I mean, I think just I think I mentioned this at one of the interviews, but just the amount of variables on the course. The fairways are so tight. There's a million trees. You throw a shot 6 inches off one way, you're getting a double bogey instead of a par or a birdie. So as long as you're hitting your lines that day, if you're playing smart, you can win that tournament. And I think that's why we've seen a bunch of different names pop up on the leaderboard.
Are you, well, I guess that maybe answers the next question, which is, are you surprised to see anyone finish where they do? But I mean, yeah, that tournament kind of provides those results. Winning there means, I don't want to say it means nothing, but it means nothing to you the next year, right?
There's no advantage.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think that's why we haven't seen a repeat winner, just because of the amount of things that can go wrong and do go wrong at that course.
I think it was that way for MVP now, but Maple Hill back in the day, where there was a long time we didn't see a repeat winner, and then Kale was like the only one, and now I think we have, I think we've had 2 or 3 repeat winners at this point over the last 3 years, I believe. So people have gone ahead and repeated, but very similar. A lot of places to get into trouble, a lot of danger, like running putts on 17. You never know what's going to happen.
No big deal. Obviously we talked about your schedule and where we're going to see you on the most elite series. Do you, according to the schedule, it doesn't seem like you're the type that necessarily is trying to fill every weekend. And maybe what I mean by that is after USDGC and into November and January, will we see you at, the Chain Hawk Open? Will we see you at like other A tiers and other big B tiers? Or are you in the mentality of like, no, I'm ready to then have an off season?
I think I'm looking forward to the off season. Just to have a break, play some local tournaments in Georgia. I mean, there's a tournament here pretty much every weekend, so I'll hang out, see some old friends, just practice during that time.
Okay.
So yeah.
And excuse me, where are you relative to? Where's Lawrenceville? I was gonna say, where's that relative to like the
IDGC?
Yeah,
something?
IDGC in that general area. How far? Where are you?
Yeah, so we're about 2 hours from the IDGC.
Okay.
We're about an hour, I think, east of Atlanta. Or
okay.
about 45 minutes east of Atlanta.
Okay, that makes sense. Any other crazy or weird obligations? I mean, that you've got to fulfill over these next couple of weeks.
I mean, not that I know of, unless somebody springs them on me. But yeah, I think I'm just relaxing this next week, and then heading out to Ohio and then D-Glow. So unless somebody knows something I don't.
No, I think of, again,
we could see things such as, Prodigy sending you a stack of discs, like, hey, here's 500 discs you have to sign now because we're going to give them away to certain team members or whatnot. And I mean, there's all sorts of different, I don't want to say strange, but unique obligations that can occur when you have a win like this, especially when it's your first win. I mean, your first major DGPT Elite Series win. So,
I think about in-store signings. I think about an extra clinic you didn't necessarily know you might be lining up, or those types of things. So maybe as we wrap up, one of the side notes, anything crazy planned for the weekend wedding? Are you
has the bachelor party happened already?
Yeah, all that kind of stuff.
Was there one? I mean, what is
how
your...
wild are things getting?
Yeah, so as far as I know, we are playing disc golf in the morning, the morning of the wedding. So, we got to take a shower, get ready for the wedding before it happens. But Friday night, we're going to go to an escape room, which I've never been to, so I'm excited about that. I've always wanted to do one.
I hope you get out in time for the wedding.
Yeah, hopefully.
If you miss it, like, where is he? I don't know.
Didn't get out of the escape room.
He's in room 7. Somewhere.
That's some good motivation to get out. But just hanging out with friends, playing disc golf, the escape room. That should be it, I think.
I mean, that sounds like a good time. Is there anything that we didn't touch on that you'd like to talk about before we let you go?
I think you did a good job. I think we covered pretty much everything.
All right. Well, of course, we want to thank you for joining us and congratulations. But as always, we invite you to let the world know not only how they can support you, but any sponsors, any shout outs that you've got. Please utilize all this time to recognize anyone that you'd like.
Yeah, thank you. Obviously Prodigy Discs, huge thank you to them. Wouldn't be out here without them. Like I said a couple minutes ago, they released some commemorative discs for my first win on the Elite Series. It's a 750 M1 and a 300 soft PA3. So those are the discs that I use. Came in very handy this weekend. So yeah, check those out. That's one way you can support me. Facebook, Instagram, I'm on there. I'd love to connect with you there. Shout out to Disc God. It's a local disc golf company that supports me as well. But yeah, that's about it.
Where can they find you on the various socials? What are some of your handles or logins and screen names and stuff?
Yeah, so on Facebook, just Isaac Robinson.
Okay.
We have Disc Family Robinson, which is kind of a joint account for me and Ezra. So if you're interested in what he's doing as well, that's a great way to connect with us. Instagram, you can find me on Instagram. I don't know what my username is. It's probably, I think it's Isaac WRDG Robinson, something like that. But yeah, so Facebook and Instagram are the main ways.
Yeah, we've got Isaac WRDG_19.
Yes.
So it's just that easy one.
Not _20. That's a different guy.
Nope, that's the wrong guy.
Before I let you go, real quick, there was some talk about it on the broadcast. I have to ask, are you and your brother the best brothers out there right now? Do you feel like you could take any other set of brothers, the Sextons, the Ulibaris, the Macbeths? Like, do you feel like you two have it wrapped up right now?
I think, of course, it depends on the course. But I think me and Ezra could make a very strong case for being the best brother duo in the world.
All right.
There's nobody, I think, when we play together, there's just a connection, and we just play well. So
yeah,
I think we do it.
Okay.
I'd throw the Earharts
Earharts
into that, as they're both pretty good and both can fly under the radar, but they're certainly good. I would say the only other competition that probably the ones that would take you down would have to be the Mundahanos. They'd probably be if I picked a team.
They're scary. They're good.
They are definitely good. All right. Well, Isaac, it was so exciting watching you perform the way you did, watching
precision. That's what I can say.
Just dicing it up throughout the entire weekend. But I think most impressively to me was the fact that you were moving into the final holes with a lead. You, like you said, you separated. You and Gannon at one point had separated from the field, a field that's usually so tight. We even ran the numbers about how competitive this event is, and you said, hey, I'm not worried about all that, and you kind of left everyone behind in the dust, and you closed out strong like a champion. You didn't falter at any point, and it was truly an honor to watch such an incredible performance. So congratulations again, and thanks for letting us get to know you a little bit better and letting the whole world of Smashies get to know you a little bit better tonight as well. We appreciate it.
Thank you guys so much. I appreciate you having me on.
Definitely. Thank you
All
very
right, man.
much,
Have
Isaac.
a good night. Have a great weekend. Don't find any trouble out there, and we'll see you in a few weeks.
Good luck in the escape room.
Thank you. Sounds good.
Yep. See ya.
Bye.
See ya.
All right, Isaac Robinson, your
Like
champion.
we said, go out to the Prodigy website. Go take a look at those PA3s and the M1s. Go buy one. Honestly.
Yep. Get you some.
Support our young players.
All right. Congrats. Well, Johnny, why don't you rip through the top 10 or so on the MPO side from this weekend?
I can do that, Terry. All right. So, obviously, as he said, Chris Dickerson following him up by what ended up being 4 strokes because... because Isaac just decided he on hole 17 he kind of put his knee on his throat, and hole 18 he just really
he twisted
a little bit.
He's like, here, let me put on some spikes on this and twist it.
And honestly, those two had cleared the field by quite a bit. Kyle Klein was next behind Dickerson. He was 6 strokes behind Dickerson, 10 full strokes behind Isaac. Congratulations to Kyle Klein for your 3rd place finish. He was the defending champion. He came out and definitely showed that he is a force to be reckoned with at Idlewild and anywhere in general, but he had a slow start to the beginning of the season, finishing okay, usually top 15-ish, but not really up in those podium positions. And for the last couple of weeks, he's been playing very well. Gannon Burr tied for 4th place with Chris Clemens. Gannon, as we say, rough 3rd round. Rough final round. Only shot the best weather, shot his worst round. He shot a 1 under par, not able to get it done. He kind of had, I don't want to say a meltdown, but just probably a lapse in concentration at some point and just couldn't get things going. Took a 7 on hole 7.
Yeah, that was really the...
And at that point, I mean, he had just had a bunch of pars. It was a little tough for him. But even if he shoots the 9 strokes better, he's finishing second behind Isaac. 6th place, as you mentioned, shooting a 13 under course record. Paul Macbeth, that guy, he was in... What it said here, he moved up 27 places. So he was in like 33rd place, decided just to come out, shoot the course record, and bump himself all the way up to 6th place, tied with Alden Harris and Matteo. 9th place was Austin Hannum and Jeremy Coling, as well as Adam Hammis and James Conrad. So congratulations to your top, I guess technically that'd be 12, but your top 10 finishers in the MPO. We're going to move over to FPO now. Katrina Allen, after having, again, a slow middle of the season, started out really well at the beginning of the season, kind of cooled off a bit, was a little spotty here and there, but ultimately, she ends up winning by 2 strokes in this particular event over Missy Gannon and Owen Scoggins. And Owen, honestly, she looked like she was in control for a while, and then the back 9 just got her. And nothing you can do about it. Obviously, Idlewild will show its teeth apparently at times. But Owen ends up still a respectable tied for second.
Yeah.
And in 4th place, Mondahano. Not that one, the other one. Alexis Mondahano, the name that we haven't been talking about recently as much as Valerie. She was up there this weekend, tied for 4th as well. So Alexis Mondahano, congratulations. It tied with Ella Hansen. Ella as well was doing very, very well until the final round. And then, again, that I think part of that is just her being relatively new on the tour, probably not quite as consistent as she would obviously love to be because she had a pretty rough 4-over on that final round. Shooting really, really well still, Madison Walker, tied for 6th with Macy Vela Diaz. In 8th place was Jessica Weiss. 9th place, Juliana Corver. And in 10th, we have a whole bunch tied for 10th place here. Hold on. I have to scroll down. Katie Alsalu, Ellen Wid to the Boom, and Paige Pierce. Your returning champion, I believe, was Paige Pierce, taking 10th place.
Yeah, and a lot of color on Paige's scorecard.
It was a rainbow of fruit flavors.
Wow. And ultimately only finished with 3 pars in that final round. She parred 5, 8, and 18 and had everything in between, had everything ranging from a 2 to multiple 7s.
She had to use all of her fingers.
Holy cow. Yeah. Pretty crazy out there.
And as Isaac was saying, that's what Idlewild can do.
Yeah.
You're off by a little bit. You can become off by a lot. It's just the way that course treats you.
Yeah. Well, congratulations to Isaac, of course, and congratulations to Katrina Allen. Just incredible performances, and I know you just kind of ran through them, but I'm jumping off the page at least during that final round. I know I just talked about Paige Pierce, but also looking at how Missy Gannon made a very significant charge to move up 6 spots and certainly became in contention more than once, keeping our eyes on her throughout as well. And
Missy's 3-down might be the FPO course record. And I hate talking about course records in general because these courses change every season.
Every year, sure.
It's like a basket raised here, a slightly changed here, things like that. It's really hard to judge. I'd rather see almost course ratings records, but even that.
Yeah, that we all know. Yeah,
adjust.
you play that course in the rain versus you play it in the sunshine
100%.
and all of those types of things. I got sidetracked. I know, shocker. Somebody, Tim out there, who's out there spotting. I got to see our good pal Tim Courts for the weekend.
Awesome. Said he saved Kyle a stroke on hole 13. Congratulations, congratulations, Tim, not Kyle. Yeah. Congratulations, Tim.
I was going to look at hole 16 because you were just talking about, I'll say the overall ease, or I hate to say the simplicity, but when we look at averaging the holes out, hole 16 played as the single easiest hole, at least during the third round. It probably did in rounds 1 and 2.
I was going to say that feels like it should be a par 4.
And that's exactly part of
MPO.
part of the discussion is, should that be a par 4? We saw 13% of the field had eagles, 57% of the field had birdies, just 25% of the field had pars, and then 3% were above par.
Well, hole 8 looks like it's a very similar distribution.
Yeah, and we all know how daunting hole 8 can be. And I feel like that in the first year, was it deemed a par 4, or if that was the argument for it, I'm not really sure. But then look at how easy hole 1 plays also. I mean, everybody birdies hole 1, it feels like. It's just sorry, 60% of the field.
Yeah.
Which is it's the most birdied hole on the course.
Which is funny because I think it was our lead card on that final round.
Yeah, that's like there was only one birdie.
There was one birdie on Isaac got it. Dickerson did not.
Okay, Kyle and Chris did. Yeah, so 3 out of 4.
Okay, 3 out of 4.
You might be thinking of day 2.
Maybe I was thinking day 2.
Yeah, it was not impressive.
No.
We're like, what?
And there's a little bit of danger on that. With it is kind of on a mounded green, and we've seen quite a few rollaways and some misses, and it's an elevated basket. I can understand if someone were to call that a par 3. But it would be a very difficult par 3 because almost nobody can get there on the drive. You have to throw.
I don't consider.
It's a tweener. Par
I would
4.
wave vote.
It's like 3.3 or something.
I would wave vote for hole 16 becoming a 4 for MPO before I would vote for 1 to become a 3, because then it would almost never be birdied. Yeah, if 1 was a par 3.
And that's fine. It's just, obviously, as we know, for the most part, it's just a number. People just use it for stats. Not a big deal. That's
matters to me, man.
Well, then you need to probably join the PDGA board of directors and make that happen.
What a great segue, because tonight, and I meant to do it on the way to Idlewild or on the way back from Idlewild, however, I didn't. So on the way back from Peoria today, I had almost 4 hours. And I downloaded, I believe, I did not get through all of them because I didn't think of it until later, but I did listen at an increased speed to, I'm going to say most. I guess I'd have to go back and double check how many it was.
So who are you voting for?
But I listened to at least most. I will absolutely listen to the rest of them before I make any final voting decisions. I know of a person or two I'm not voting for.
Who are you not voting for, Terry?
And that's not really in a disrespectful way. I just know that I was either not impressed I guess that would be the best way to word it. Just underqualified or not. I don't want to say doesn't align. I mean, because let's be honest, every single, and they don't all, but every single candidate can always say, and I experienced this last year because I interviewed them all, well, the youth is the future of our sport. And that's nothing new. I'm not ripping on anyone that said that, because of course it's true. It's, and I'm not even talking about any of the candidates that did or didn't say that here, but that's just always a statement. And it really made me think about it today. Like, is that what matters most? Is getting it into schools? Is that always what matters? I mean, I've been saying that for 20 years. Is that the most important thing? It just feels like
it's an easy answer.
It seems obvious and easy, but is it? Is it the most obvious way that we...
I mean, if you want casual people to play, yes, that seems like the way to go. But
and here's my.
But it's also one of the most difficult things to do. So ultimately, the board of directors can say all they want. Yeah, let's get this in the hands of kids. But actually doing that will take years. It always
and it has been going on.
Yeah, it has been going on for years. So I don't know. That's a whole thing. Either way, as we said, go download, listen, vote. Reach out if you have questions. Reach out to the candidates. Ask them personally. Most of these men and women will probably respond to you in some manner.
Yes,
and that could say a lot too. I was going to say it's almost unfortunate that a lot of people are probably going to dictate their their responses based on these interviews, on their votes. I think there could be very good people that don't necessarily interview well.
Oh, of course.
And so if you come off, and I don't know, because I honestly haven't listened to any of them, if you come off stuttery or nervous or not sounding confident or maybe just not having great answers on hand, that might not necessarily reflect on how you would be in a different board situation, which is unfortunate.
But that's also why you
politics.
That's all politics and any voting procedure, but also why I would encourage you then to read their statements. You know, so a lot of them did this interview, which by default, or not by default, but intentionally, the questions were nearly identical for every single person on purpose.
And they were probably provided them before the interview even.
Maybe not. But
that would be my guess.
It's exactly what I conducted last year, but in a much shorter version. And I had helped out with the PDGA in conducting and going through all the interview, all the candidates, and then essentially asking them the same question. Grant did a great job, everyone that I had listened to. So naturally, I would encourage you to also read any statements that they've made, any other videos that they've made, consume them in multiple media if they've provided it. Yeah, of course. And Phil, I'll give him a shout out. He's out on the board under Phil Mills, CPA. I'm pretty sure Phil is in fact running.
He's got the CPA letters back there.
He's in fact running. And I'll be honest with you, Phil, I don't think I heard yours yet. So I don't think I heard any jingle either. No, I'm kidding.
Wait, I don't. We'll feel bad if a super chat suddenly pops up.
I would just make sure
Make sure it's addressed to me, Phil.
And I think it is Phil who has also said, "Hey, if you're taking guests," and this year we didn't make a concerted effort. In the past, we have, like I said, and then last year the PDGA worked with me where I went through every single and had a conversation with every single candidate and kind of helped out the PDGA in that sense. And this year we haven't. It's kind of goofy because now that we have 13 people running, I feel like you need to either have them all or none. And maybe that's a stupid way to say it, but because I don't want us to show like a favoritism. Yeah. So that's why I continue to push people to the PDGAs because it's been done in that sense. But as Phil says, get out and vote, everyone. Let your voices be heard. And I totally agree with that, whoever it might be for. Michael on the board, though, says, sounds like Terry wants to remove Madison Walker. Was it because she took him down by 2 strokes in a casual round at Idlewild? I didn't play her. She might have beat me in a casual round, but no, I did not play against her. But if she did play faster, I wouldn't be mad.
Madison's a little particular. She's not the fastest player on tour.
I wouldn't be mad.
Nobody would.
Madison.
Nobody mad. All right, a couple other things we're going to talk about real quick. 6 days ago, it was announced the PDGA is seeking hosts for 2024 PDGA majors. So if you're interested or you have a club or a good area, please, by all means, take a look at the bidding process and see if you guys qualify for that. Going on right now, as you said, just south of us, are the Junior and Masters Worlds. I want to give a quick shout out to our good friend Steve Held, who's playing down there. If you call it that. He played Northwood Black today. Did you happen?
I did. As I told our other good friend who's with him, as I was pulling into your driveway, Matt Parker, Matt the Stat. I messaged him. I said, you could have shot an 1140 rated round, 1140, and I wouldn't know because I didn't look at a single score until a few moments ago. So although I was in Peoria doing other work and driving back from there today, I looked at 0 scores. I had the pleasure of seeing Steve Rico and transporting him to a course and then having a 5-minute catch-up session, and then off he went. But I have seen 0 scores.
Yeah, Ace Run Production is out there covering the FP40 division, so please go support them when those videos drop. And I guarantee you, like I said, our friend Steve Held will not be on any of those videos after his Northwood Black round, where I think he shot 16 over, 14 over. I jokingly said, starting out with like 3 bogeys is not the way to start. But whatever. And then I looked again, probably 10 or 12 holes later, and I was like, hey, dude, have you ever heard of a birdie? And he jokingly said, I just missed a 16-footer for bird on hole 17 or something. So I think he went birdie free this morning. So I'm thinking about you. Steve, I'm thinking about you. Northwood Black is a tough course.
We're thinking about you getting birdie, too.
Yeah, I would love to see your first birdie at Masters Worlds. So anyway, so that's going on down there along with Junior Worlds. Look for coverage. Terry, do you have...
I've got a few updates. First of all, let me quickly read through. Alan Wagner and Martin Hendel had the hot rounds at the Northwood Black course today. They shot 1 under, which was rated 1036. As I checked a couple of camera guys into their hotel, I saw Sandy Hendel for 2 seconds, and there was like there's a weirdness in the hallway. There was like a darkness in the hallway, and she said my name, and because of the way like the not so bright lights were, I couldn't tell who it was. I saw Sandy Hendel for a second, and her brother is out here killing it, and I think she didn't say she didn't play as well, but best of luck to all of them. And then leading, and I drove past Mr. Johnny McRae coming into town. Johnny McRae is leading over Barry Schultz by a stick. Mike Mosier and Patrick Brown right there in the thick of things.
I want everyone to remember that. Johnny McRae, who is recovering from a heart attack, is winning the division over Barry Schultz, who you know is no schlub by any means in any aspect of our sport. Still, what, a 1020 rated player?
Higher than that.
1018.
1018.
Okay, I thought he was around 1020 or 1022. But
no, he went down today, bro. You didn't see his post.
No, I didn't see his post. No. But anyway, Johnny McRae, still, you know.
Still, 1042 golf is what he shot today.
That ain't bad for a guy with half a heart or something.
Also, not too bad. Not too shabby. You've seen a lot of these names before playing Open. Owen Scoggins, she shot 1,001 rated opening round today. Congratulations to Owen. She's leading by 1 over Holly Finley. Holly Finley's got 2 strokes over Sarah Holcomb and 3 over Juliana Korver. Katka Badova, one of my favorites, who is out and playing again. Good to see her.
What kind of cat are you?
Badova. She got it together today, shot 955 rated golf. And then Jennifer Allen, who's certainly going to be, another conversation piece as one of your top contenders. But Owen Scoggins in the lead early as they head over.
She has to be the favorite. I know there's some great women out there, but the way she's been playing in FPO, taking top 5s, then to go to FP 40. You have to look at her as the favorite out here.
You would, and then right there, barely off the tee pad, a step away, you would say you're Sarah Holcomb, you'd say Jen Allen, and you'd say Holly Finley.
I'd say they're 2 steps behind.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Owen Scoggins is taking podiums at FP40. None of those other women are practically right now. So, like it or not, those are all great women, and any given day, any of them can win FP40. But Owen Scoggins has 2 steps on them right now, the way she's playing. So, take that for what it is. What else we got over there, Ter?
Yes, Redding is 1 stroke in front of Nova. So they got a great battle in FP50 has started off. Frederick Granison in MP55. Couple ahead of our buddy Jerdog. So good start out there today for him. Johnny Rumble, I saw his name here. Got to get the shout out. Where did there he is. Johnny Rumble shot 960 rated golf today. Starting off a little behind the pack. Rumble, get it together. That means where's Matt the Stat Parker? Matt Parker, who I was just talking about, did not shoot 1140 rated golf. He shot 931 rated golf today.
Ouch.
So go get it, Matt.
That's about my rating. Awkward. Sorry.
Anyway, Sandy Gast is currently in the lead. I want to read through all these real quick. Sandy's out in the lead. Tim Keith is leading over Mitch Mack in a tight battle there in MP60. Pam Renicky currently has the lead over in FP60. Jay Gobreg is leading over Jay Gary, Drop Chow. In 65, Johnny Sias, Randy Beers have a battle going on. Johnny Sias is ahead.
That the people who were dominant when we were younger are now
still dominant.
Well, how come they're all playing MP70? What does that say about us?
They're all still dominant.
And they're still winning.
Rick Hahn is leading, as is Pete May. And then we get into all the AM side. So best of luck to everybody. The juniors, this is of note, the juniors start tomorrow. And I love what they did in that, and this really does make perfect sense. The age-protected divisions, I believe, are exclusively playing 1 round per day, playing 5 Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then a semifinals on Saturday. And there's going to be a final 9, so there's like roughly 5.5 rounds.
Hallelujah.
Juniors divisions are often playing 2 rounds per day. Not all days, not every day, but they're playing, which makes sense. They're like 18 and 15 and young and vibrant and playing slightly shorter courses.
Because you know what? They're going to be playing before the round. They're going to play the round. They're going to play between the round. Then they're going to play their second round. And then they're going to go back to the hotel and throw discs all over the hotel. And
you might as well have them doing it all at baskets.
Might as well do it at baskets because those darn kids don't quit.
Yeah, that's all part of that youthful energy. So the juniors kick off tomorrow. Again, here's my public announcement about this. Mark my words that next year I will either, I guess there's A, B, and C here. I will either be playing, I will be working, or C is I will be playing and working, but I will be at the World Championships for the Masters divisions. Far too many incredible people, too many amazing stories, peers, people we've played with, friends of ours, either playing or playing and working, but I will be in Flagstaff. I don't care. I don't care how it's going to happen. I have to be there next year. I almost cried today. I did not want to leave Peoria. I was only there for a night to deliver some boxes that had nothing to do with the event. It was just the timing, and I didn't want to leave today. And I'm excited about the Norway event at 6:30 tomorrow morning. But I really, I need to be part of Pro Masters Worlds. And
I'm with you. I would like to do that.
So next year, just mark my words, I need to be there. That happens to be also the first time I accepted, I took cash out of Pro Worlds was 2003 in Flagstaff. So maybe I dust off the old Frisbees, or maybe I just grab a camera and a microphone. But either way,
I know which one you'd be more successful at.
Flagstaff.
I know which one you'd be more successful at.
Last time I played in Flagstaff,
I know you cashed at Worlds.
I beat Johnny McRae. Or maybe not, but it was close. I beat Jay Redding, who's gone on to become a legend.
Oh, Terry, you're a legend in your own mind.
That's true. So best of luck to everybody this week. Can't say it enough. I wish I was there. There has been a thought of maybe doing some kind of remote check-in, live, nightly show on some night. It's not happening every night, I promise you that. But maybe something will happen. So stay tuned to my channel over on the Disc Golf Guy. Maybe we have some kind of check-in.
So I don't want to say, it can only be construed as bad news. Kristen Tatar made a Instagram post, I believe is what it was. Maybe it's Facebook, but I believe it's Instagram. Basically saying that she's going to see some specialists. She has 3 different appointments about her arm/elbow. That she was very sad she had to pull out of the 2-knee.
Mm-hmm.
And it just based on the feeling I get from this, I have a hard time believing she's going to play in the European Open. She's not playing in Sula.
Mm-hmm.
And it'll be unfortunate because obviously going overseas, we always talk about how the European women coming over here. Now, finally, when we all get to go over there, to have one of them not be able to compete really is a kick to the stomach. I can only hope that somehow she finds some sort of help, or she gets some diagnosis that says, yeah, you might not be up to 100%, but you're not going to hurt it anymore. I don't know, but it just doesn't feel, I don't feel confident in her playing the European Open. I'll just say that.
No, unfortunately, yeah. And that is out on Instagram. where she makes a lengthy post and she kind of breaks it down as Johnny just paraphrased, but Kristen.Tatar is her Instagram if you want to go out and take a look at it.
Maybe best case, I don't know, cross our fingers, this is something like what Simon dealt with, and maybe she just needs to take some time. It's tough because, as we say, these players are playing 8, 9, 10,000 foot courses on the regular, which is, I mean, I said it for USW DGC. I liked the 6,000 to 7,000 foot course once in a while. Have a few of those thrown in where it's okay if you only play 3 to 4 rounds on those. No, I was gonna say no one will complain, but someone will always complain. I think that's okay. So ultimately, let's just hope for the best for Kristen Tatar, and maybe we'll get very lucky and she'll play in the European Open, or maybe she'll just take a rest and come back for her regularly scheduled Worlds visit. Either way, don't know. And that's kind of all I got there.
Well, big hugs and support and love over to Kristen and Silver and her daughter and just everyone involved, because obviously it's really and it's a huge loss for the disc golf community to not have our top rated player there and competing. So yeah, hope she gets some answers, and then of course we hope that from there she can find some kind of solutions that can be implemented moving forward. I'm going to quickly pull up, and just as a quick reminder for everyone, tomorrow, if you're listening to this live on Tuesday night, tomorrow morning, we just mentioned it, but 7:30 Central Time is when the broadcast will start. I believe that's like roughly 2:30 local time in Norway. And yeah, I'm looking at it. It's saying 9 hours from now, which just sounds crazy thinking about what the next few hours are going to look like. But anyway, we're going to have some feature cards. I believe there's 2 or 3 feature cards to kind of close out the round or close out the MPO side. So there'll be 2 or 3 of those feature cards. We'll continue to watch other cards and so on and so forth naturally. But then also we're going to have the FPO who are going to be teeing right after the MPO. So think back to basically 2 years ago.
This is a combined broadcast, as we call it, where the women will play after the men. And to be fair, no offense to any of these women, none of them are household names over here in the United States.
Yeah, not United States household names, correct.
We don't have any of the top FPO players playing in this event. So I believe, I don't know how much focus there will, and again, I haven't looked at the info dump from Mo yet. I don't know how much focus will be had on the FPO during the round. I know we've done that before, checked in, or if this will be a primarily after the round, we'll begin to check in with them. But either way, I think there's 11 women playing.
Yeah, there's just 11 women in the field. We had one U.S. competitor. Maybe it was Leah Sinigini. Happy belated birthday, Leah. It might have been her, or it was someone else. I don't recall who was, but I don't see them anymore. I no longer see any U.S. competitors. So unless I don't have my flags right. No, I don't see any U.S. competitors there.
Yeah, we haven't changed.
But there are 11 women that will be teeing off, like we said, after the men. We'll, give you most of the men's broadcast, and then we'll continue to check in and give updates as to the FPO broadcast. So it's going to be myself. We got a brand new group in the booth. If you don't like it, well, you're stuck with it for 4 days. But we do have a brand new group that has not all concurrently worked together in this way. Myself, Zoe Andike, and Brian Earhart, and very much looking forward to it.
We should have invited Zoe here tonight. We had Kelvin last week.
That's true. But we should have.
Unfortunately, there was a lot of other stuff going on.
Zoe's probably smart and already sleeping.
Oh, God. I'm sure she is. She's, coming here would not have been a smart move on her part.
Yeah. It never is, really.
For anybody. You, me,
you think about it,
anybody.
Yeah, not necessarily a good idea. All right. Should we close out things and then get to an after show?
We should.
All right. We are going to do just that. As we said, we're going to close out the regular show and the after show. We'll catch up with you a little bit more on the chats and talk about anything that may or may not be disc golf related. We'll also have our weekly giveaway for our Patreon supporters. We appreciate all of you guys. So if you want to jump on, you can do that.
Patreon.com/SmashboxTV.
All right, guys. So we need to again congratulate and thank Isaac Robinson. Thank him for joining us tonight. It was great to have him for the first time. I have a feeling it won't be the last time. And also congratulations to our FPO champion in Katrina Allen. Hard-fought battle, and yeah, good to see her back on top as well. For Johnny V and myself, Terry Miller, the Disc Golf Guy, this has been episode 411. We're going to stand down for just a few moments, then we'll come back in the after show. We'll see you then when you step inside the Smashbox.
Thank you to our $2 and above patrons. Your name is listed below in the credits. If you are interested in being listed as a producer in the Smashbox TV credits and supporting this and other fine podcasts, please visit patreon.com/SmashboxTV.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Smashbox TV Podcast 411's After Show.
Only viewable with the James Webb Telescope. Our after show.
Yeah.
We're that far out there.
Uh-huh.
Did you look at any of the... You have not.
I have not.
Nothing.
I have.
Today they released pictures. They had a live stream, which I watched because I'm cool like that, of them releasing 5 pictures from this new telescope. Are you familiar with this telescope?
The only thing I know of it is somebody posted like one picture yesterday or something like that.
Correct. It
And
was
then
like
today
one of
you're
the
saying
5.
There's 5. Okay.
That was one of the 5. There were 4 more. Beautiful. They went into a lot on how they actually, because the color, the pictures aren't, when they get them, they aren't actually color pictures because they're done via like infrared and other aspects. And so they went through the whole process on how they actually do color them based on different wavelengths, and there's a little bit of artist interpretation and cleaning up the pictures and this and that. And they showed they showed these 5 pictures. I mean, this is the equivalent of Hubble when we were a kid, but just times 100. I mean, it honestly is relatively amazing that we can do this stuff, and just the design is like, I see it being an iconic design for NASA for the next like 20 years. It's this honeycomb looking reflected thing. I'll pull up the James Webb Telescope, and you can see it's got like this right here is the James Webb Telescope. So it's got this huge refractor. I should pull it up for the people at home. People at home
no
too.
Copyright.
It has these hexagons that are all reflective, and obviously it's got this mirror, and it's just everything about this is amazing. But on top of that, I think that just this honeycomb pattern is going to be very much NASA for the next 10 to 15 to 20 years. And this is faster than the Hubble, so they'll be able to get more pictures. The one picture they released that you probably saw of all the stars, they said equate that to holding up a single grain of sand at arm's length in the sky. That is what the picture entailed.
Wow.
So for reference, the sky could there's a lot of grains of sand in the sky if you want to take a look.
Yeah.
But pictures were really cool, and I'm a nerd like that, so I got a real good kick out of watching them do this. The other thing I got a kick out of, their live broadcast.
Yeah.
What a mess.
Okay.
It was kind of funny in that you would hear, she'd like, hey, we're going to go over to Perth, Australia and talk to some people there and wave to the crowd. And then the people would be sitting there looking, and you'd hear her in the background like, hey, Perth, and no one would do anything. And you could just tell there was a delay. And then people would cheer and they'd cut away. At one point, they cut away to a different guy. And then 3 seconds later, you could hear the guy again on repeat. So somebody in the control room had a hot mic. At one point, I heard her say something when they cut away. I heard the person who was running the not the live stream, but in front of the camera, basically saying, "Guys, I'm getting a lot of IFB in my ear. I can't." And then she cut off hardcore. And it's just, live production is difficult, even for NASA. If a bunch of rocket scientists can't figure out live broadcasting, get off our case. So it was really cool.
Huh. So they don't have it figured out entirely.
I'm just, SpaceX has like 2 or 3 legs up on them, because that SpaceX one is always pretty tight. It's really well done. The NASA one looks like they hired like a high schooler that had just learned OBS or vMix to run it or something like that. I got a kick out of it. And I'm not saying I would do any better, because live production is hard, especially when you're bringing in all those sources and all those different people. They would cut to a shot and there'd be 2 people and one of their mics was turned off, and then you'd quickly hear it turn back on, and just things like that. I just got a kick out of watching some of the live production done by NASA. Ultimately, though, I was there to see the pictures, and I thought it was really cool.
All right. Well, I've got something completely unrelated to quickly throw out that, as some of you know, a few weeks ago, myself and Matt Graham, along with Todd Dodge, all kind of constructed a quick little crew to do some media work over at Maple Hill. And I had a lot of fun being there. We had 8 different college teams that were available that all came to compete. And we were partly just looking for the right time to release some of the action for it. And there's a tiny lull in overall coverage at the moment. So if you go out there is a recap video from rounds 1 and 2 that I released on my channel today. Please check that out. And then the plan is probably tomorrow to release a little more standard, in-depth round number 3 coverage that includes shot-by-shot action. So check that out. I know there's a little break in coverage momentarily. We're going to probably see some Masters and Juniors coverage slowly unfold in the next few days, and we're not going to see some PCS coverage for another day or 2 or 3. So you've got some fresh content, and that actually unintentionally perfectly segued, if that can be past tense, into.
It could be that could be a verb too, like you segued over to the chorus.
Yeah, that's I suppose. That segues though right over to our friends at Emporia State University, and hopefully maybe as early as next week. Tonight things are a little shorter and quicker, but the long and short of it is that Eric McCabe has been named the coach of the new.
What does he know?
ESU disc golf team.
What does that guy know? What has he ever done?
I don't know, but geesh. So I want to get more into it next week. I really don't want to. I have all the details, but I'd rather hear from Eric, honestly, than me reading some copy to you. So if it works out, I'm going to reach out to Eric. And tonight would have been great, except for our very quick overall night. So hopefully next week we can have Eric, and that actually does fit perfectly with what I was just saying with regard to a release of this recent college disc golf event that's on my channel, the Maple Hill Invitational. So please go check that out. And congratulations to Eric McCabe. Hopefully we'll have him next week. Maple Hill Invitational. There's a quick plug for you.
Way to go.
Okay, it's out there. All right, let's get caught up on other things that have come in on the board. I have a question about something that happened on 13. Zach Arlinghouse threw a shot that knocked a dead limb off a tree. It was 6 inches wide at base and 12 feet long, smacked into several pieces.
Okay. So as they jokingly, he did a little tree trimming.
Yep. It's screwed and upshot by Bradley Williams. I don't know as a spotter, could I remove that from the fairway?
That's a good question.
It happened during the round. So only if it could be proven or if it's known to have happened during the round, can you remove something like that? So as a spotter,
I guess technically can do whatever the heck you want, but I would think so.
I'd have to double check that, but I would think that you could. I guess the other question is, could you not? Right? I mean, if you is there anything saying you can't? I guess would be the way I'd look at it. We'd have to look it up, and this is exactly why the PDGA rules are open book when it comes to the test and when they're available everywhere, is because in a scenario like that, you would go out and look it up. I would think that you could. It fell during the round, and that's always part of the conversation is was something there at the beginning of the round, or did it happen during the round? And that happened during the round. So in that case, I would think that it could be. I guess it's always interesting, like, does it matter if it's a spotter as opposed to a player? And what if a player, I mean, it brings up so many questions, honestly, because what if you, let's say it's the old school shotgun start. You started on hole 14. So you played 13, like you practiced it right up until the 2-minute warning. You had played it and you were very familiar with it. And then all of a sudden, and there's the stick is not there, but then the round starts, and then by the time you get to it, it's your final hole, and you see the stick is there. So it clearly fell during the round because you were there all the way till the 2 minutes, and then you started on 14, so you're ending on 13. Then is your argument that you could move it? I'd have to look it up.
I don't know. There was a little bit of talk this week about from some of our pros. Drew Gibson talked about whether or not we need to think about calling events due to safety, whether there was too much rain or wind. I don't like the wind thing. I think you're just being a whiner at that point. But I understand there could be safety factors for too much rain, even if there's no lightning. A course like Idlewild, where there's a few up and downs, there could be a lot of mud. It could get dangerous. We saw that with USCGC a few years back, where there wasn't quite lightning yet, but the winds were very high, and there was rain, and tree branches were falling.
Yeah,
I could understand that at a course like Idlewild. I do believe that there are instances where just safety is a factor, whether it's the ground, if it's raining heavy enough, it's almost impossible to get footing, whether you're doing forehand or backhand. I have no problem with that. But in general, I don't think you should be calling a tournament just because of wind, a la DDO.
Yeah.
That's just unfortunate conditions. Kind of aligned with that second thought was Andrew Presnell, who had talked about how he felt that players should be grouped by rating on first round.
First round, that the players of similar ratings should be grouped together.
Which I understand. I don't necessarily agree with, but what I could look at, and we don't have, here's why I don't necessarily think it's that important. We're getting to the point in our sport where almost all of our players that are playing these events are practically 1,010 rated and up, or 1,000 rated and up. So who do you pick on? The guy who's 1,000, 1,010, make them go off early in the morning as opposed to the 1,030 guy? Do you just split the field in half and say, all right, well, the average rating is, or the mean, so to speak, you'd want to probably not the average, would be median? It'd be the median. Is 1,014. So everyone under 1,014, we're just going to randomly mix you up. You're going to go in the morning, and everyone after that goes in the afternoon, or you kind of find a middle point for that and do it that way. I could understand if we went that direction. I don't necessarily think it's that valuable because, as we see, these days it feels like almost anybody can win these events regardless of where you are. And he wants similar conditions for similar rated players. So,
which is not a wild theory if you look at what the PDGA has done over the last few years, specifically with Worlds.
Mm-hmm.
They have traditionally now, and this has happened for a number of years, they have traditionally grouped similarly rated players in, when we've had multiple pools, at least, they've put your top, basically most of the people who are in contention to possibly win, they'll be putting in the A pool.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody else gets put in the B pool. That's as of late, or at least some of the, it had worked out that way. And that was from a competitive standpoint, from exactly what you're saying, which is, why would you have some players? Yeah. This is especially true when we were playing two different courses on the same day. And why would you have a certain group of players that are on one course and maybe 30 minutes away, another group of players on totally different conditions? And that it has kind of gone away largely due to the overall new teeing in the way that we go off with the tee times. However, let's use a great example though, and here's where Andrew's argument I think has some validity. What happens when you're 10-20 and you're essentially never on a feature card, which means you're in that pool.
Cool. There's a lot of people that are never on a feature card.
You're in that pool of traditionally then going earlier in the day, and of course sometimes that could be to your advantage. Maybe you played in a round that had no wind or no rain. I understand where his argument. I think he got blasted a little too hard personally.
I don't think necessarily.
From what I read from it, I feel like people really went too hard on responding to him, is personally what I feel like.
Yeah, let's look at it this way. Andrew Fish, rarely on a feature card, 1022 rated.
Which means he'll never be at 3 o'clock.
Correct. Ezra Robinson.
Paul McBeth will always be at 3 o'clock.
Right around there, whatever, the final two groupings.
Yeah.
Now, not always the case, because sometimes first round, we do have a feature card, usually in the morning.
Sometimes.
That we, almost always, that we stack. That I think whoever it is, I think it's Gatekeeper maybe.
Often
gets the morning card, and they'll stack that particular card. It's like a 10 a.m. card, and it's picked. But I mean, there's a lot of 10-20 players that will never be on feature cards. Austin Hannum will probably never be on a feature card because he's a good player. But if Prodigy is going to pick a player, they're probably going to pick Gannon or Ezra or someone who is playing very well right now. And Austin is by no means a schlub. He finished 9th, but he's just not a draw right now. Chandler Fry, maybe Raven Newsom, Austin Turner. These are all 10-20 guys that will never. Luke Sampson.
So let's just say they're playing sub 11 a.m. every opening round.
Yep. Sucks, but yep.
Okay. All I'm saying is I understand where Andrew's coming from.
They're not necessarily always playing. They're just not playing those top two. They're just not playing in the top two cards. They could still play on card 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Those are all afternoon cards. But you're right. They're never probably playing at we'll just say
3:30.
3:30 and 3:15. Oh, well. So you're playing at 2:45 some weeks. You're playing at
or
10 a.m. some weekends.
10 a.m. Whereas we know certain players will never be playing at 10 a.m.
More than likely, you probably will never see a Macbeth. Every once in a while, you'll see something like that if they get on that feature card. But more than likely, because of the way the DGN works, and when you are, the DGN only has so many cameras, and they tend to want to make sure that if someone, and it's getting harder and harder with the number of players we have, but if we think that there's someone that's going to be in contention, we want to be able to see them. So we usually will put them later in the day, because then we'll be able to get to them if they're having a hot round, other than usually that 10 a.m. But that can't always be the case. The other day, Simon played a kind of a mid-morning round, and he shot a pretty good round, and we didn't see any of it because it was just that way. Paul Oman, 10-17. Tim Barham, 10-17. Those guys will never see lead cards unless they, no offense, unless they get better. Unless they start raising their rating or have a phenomenal weekend the week before, where then the week after that we get to feature them. It's
I understand how all that works.
I know you do.
I'm what I'm saying is I can understand Andrew's frustration.
Yeah, because he had to play early in the morning. The weather was crap, and then in the afternoon, even though we thought the weather was going to be crap all day, it kind of cleared up.
Yeah, it was much nicer.
It was way much nicer.
In the afternoon.
I get that. I get the discussion points. I wouldn't be opposed to it, to bunching, like creating maybe 3 bunches of players. Here's your 1050 to 1030. Here's your 1030 to 1015, and you kind of mix them up from there. But I'm also not crying about it. Not saying he is. I'm just not gonna cry that it's not gonna happen, because frankly, everyone plays throughout the season. Most people will get mixed up, other than your stars. And sometimes it's going to...
Yeah, which I think is the whole crux of the entire conversation. Like,
But sometimes
some would argue the rich get richer.
Not always. Maybe
of course not. They could have terrible weather conditions in the afternoon. That's absolutely possible. But yeah, I'm not even going to continue this.
Correct. It's just he wants the same conditions for the same ranked players, so to speak, and I wouldn't be opposed to it, but I also don't care enough. I don't think it's a high enough priority at this point.
What makes it a higher priority for you?
What do you mean? What?
Never mind. All right. So that was a conversation that was held this weekend, and as you said about playing in the various conditions, at least at one point, I know I heard somebody on one of our cards I don't remember what day or what card it was or what person it was like, well, that's not safe, is what they had said. Like, you're always welcome to call an unplayable lie and then take a stroke for that, but you can't just deem, well, there's a log here or there's something there, or I don't like that footing, therefore, like, if you want to call an unsafe lie, you're always welcome to do that, or an unplayable lie, however the terminology is. I don't have my rule book in front of me. You're always welcome to do that with penalty, but it doesn't become a subjective scenario of, well, you have to stand there. Yeah, that doesn't look safe. I mean, there's a lot of not safe looking things I've stood in that I guess what I'm really trying to say is I feel like our pros they could benefit from rereading the rule book every once in a while.
Sure.
That's what I'm trying to say.
And the other thing, in relation to Drew Gibson, nobody's forcing anyone to play in general.
Oh, sure.
If you if you're at the course and it's pouring and it's Idlewild and it's slippery, cool. Natalie Ryan just said, I'm outsies.
Yeah.
See you later. I'm out of here. I'm not mentally prepared for this weather. I'm not prepared physically for this weather. I'm out of here. And she walked off. She just didn't show up for her next round. She was like, cool, I'm done. I'm DNFing. I'll see you at the next tournament, guys. Mm-hmm. And that's just the way it went. And I don't blame her. If you're not ready or you don't feel like you're prepared, why risk injury? She's had a hamstring issue in the past. No one forces you to play these events.
Yeah. I very much agree that if you don't feel comfortable, and clearly everybody has a different threshold of that. Mm-hmm. Some players are, and I don't want to just say more prepared, but just due to their throwing style, this affects some players more than another. And I feel like that was talked about more than once this weekend, is somebody that had a standstill forehand shot probably had a significant advantage at one point or another more than normal, because they weren't using some form of run-up and they weren't relying on their footwork nearly as much. That can definitely play as a distinct advantage. Now, I'll be the first to admit, does it suck to throw a shot on hole 18 in the dead center of the fairway, and that happens to be that's where you want to land for your throw, for your flight.
But it's the muddiest spot.
But it's the muddiest spot because that's been walked through. I just always, I guess when I hear the argument about,
wow, does it really suck to be the last group coming through in rain and your tee pad's covered in mud as opposed to the first group?
yeah,
that walk
absolutely. I would want to be teeing off early every day, so you wouldn't have to worry about that. That would be much better.
Just saying.
So yeah, so I guess I'll agree with Dust Esports out there on the board. The tee pad you always want as best as it can be, but you realize like a weekend like this, like what can you do?
Yeah. Just there were brooms available. You could do your best, but those pads still can get slick. And yeah, so or you pull the Gannon Burr and drop down 2 towels.
That's one way. That's certainly a good way to do it.
I've never seen that in my entire life. I have never seen someone put down 2 individual towels, one under each foot, to throw in the middle of a fairway. I've seen ginormous towels on tee pads, like beach towels that someone lays down and they almost have a full tee pad of towel. I've never seen 2 small individual towels in a fairway. Those towels had to be, I suppose you could probably reuse those every fairway, because who cares if they get really dirty?
Yeah, dirt and nasty.
But yeah, anyway.
They ended up getting
Solid.
washed, I saw, thanks to Matt Ballard.
Great job.
Yeah, it's, and someone just said on the board something about limiting spectators. What I would say to that is it's so funny, like all of the problems that arise were either not problems or were the exact opposite of what we thought or wanted at one other point. And I guess another example of that is I read somewhere somebody saying, well, there was a huge roar when Matty O was putting on 17. That's what I heard. And maybe just because I've been at enough events for a long period of time now, that happens at every tournament, especially during the last round, especially as the crowds have gotten bigger and they're following people around. There is, in my opinion, I don't know how in the world you would ever prevent that.
No, you can't.
You absolutely can't. Does it suck for the player? Absolutely.
But guess what? Matty O is a phenomenal player who's thrown some crazy good shots. He has been the cause of that.
Exactly.
Probably more times than it has affected him. So
that is exactly it.
I love Matty O, but I have zero sympathy for that kind of issue or problem that we have, that, oh no, our dedicated fans are too loud cheering for somebody. We talked about it with who won the other day when we were saying Ricky was making a run? Who do we have on? And you could hear the Ricky roars in the background.
Oh, sure.
That's the way it worked. It was at Preserve. Yeah, I forget who even won that event. It's been so long, Terry. But either way, I've got zero complaints about that.
Yeah. So anyway, so the point, related to that is, oh no, we have all these spectators, we have all these people out here.
Yes, thank you, Bradley.
Doing all these things. Spectator traffic, as he says, destroyed those fairways.
There is some complaints to that. I can understand that. Like that. And again, another reason why teeing off earlier in the day probably would have been better. But there's not as much spectator traffic early in the week.
Spectators in general either.
Earlier in the week and when the weather was down. I mean, we do need to make sure that as our sport grows, that we are in more control of spectators. I have heard our cameramen multiple times at different events say, hey, these spectators are not being monitored. They're out of control. There's nobody holding them back at times. You shouldn't have spectators probably walking through fairways. And there should be designated areas they can walk around fairways, not through them. But we're not. I mean, that's a lot of volunteers, and that's a lot of movement. And when you get to a place like Idlewild, there ain't a lot of places to walk sometimes.
And that's what I was just going to say. And specifically, so at Idlewild, like they have it at some of the other places, they have a general admission area that's roped off where people can stand and they can walk and they can hang out. And then there is a limited amount of people that have VIP access that can go through some of these more congested, tighter corridors and fairways and whatnot. And all I think is, when you're down on 17, there's essentially no way to get back logically out to the end of the tournament other than going the long pathway to 18 and then walking down 18. Like, that's how you get out of that course, so to speak. Even if it was limited, which it probably was, to just VIPs, I think Cool. None of those problems would have existed if it was sunny all 3 days. Like, that's just, I'm not saying it's impossible to account for it, but it's not something you're necessarily thinking about as to, oh, well, hey, we might get this torrential downpour for a day or two, and the hundreds of fans that are coming through here are going to actually make it way worse. I don't know how you perfectly plan for those types of things.
Live and learn. That's one of the things we need to consider for our shaded, wooded courses that don't have a lot of grass in the fairways and spots. That's because that will happen. Every state probably has a course that you, maybe not Arizona where it never rains, but that when it rains, you're like, ugh, I just don't want to play there because ... It's slippery, it's muddy, it's yucky. I would rather go play another course, even if it rained, where I know that the grass is a little bit better and the ground soaks up the water. We all know here in Milwaukee, Dretska, after it rains, holes 1 and 18 are a lake.
Yeah, and isn't it funny now, if you really bring this big picture,
Let's bring it to Perry.
Where do we
James Webb's big
where
picture.
do we love watching disc golf played the most?
Wide open golf courses.
No, we love wooded, congested fairways.
Yeah.
We like watching accuracy. We like watching people carve shots through the woods, lace fairways. That's what overwhelmingly the majority of disc golf fans like to watch.
Oh, yeah.
Where does it get wet and muddy? Oh, in these wooded courses. And that's why I say,
didn't the TD crew take a bunch of stone or something
yeah.
on one of the holes, and they're doing their best. So this is not a rip on Idlewild because they did above and beyond what most courses would do. They laid down in between, I think, second and third round.
Yeah, they went out and put down a ton of traffic bond, like really, like a crushed limestone. They put down traffic bond. That was incredible. It created unbelievable grip and traction throughout some of the muddiest parts on that course.
So shout out to them.
Exactly. And it's funny because even on the very first day when we were there on Friday, it started to rain and it got all muddy, and it's right where vehicles were driving into the vendor area and somebody's tires were spinning for some. I'm like, oh God, this is going to be a mud pit. This is going to be absolutely terrible. In fact, me and somebody else made a joke about not standing near it because mud's just going to be ripping into our face any minute. Me and Chris Dickerson. And sure enough, the next time I walked through there, they had like this entire area all with probably literally a truckload of gravel had been put down, like regular gravel, to mitigate any. There was never any more mud there the rest of the weekend, and that was way back on Friday when they had done that. Because it was already going to become a mud pit. So, shout out to the crew there who do an incredible job. So for every problem we're having now, just know at one point we were begging for something that now has led us to that problem. So as you're saying, it's like it's all growing pains.
2 steps forward, 1 step back.
Exactly.
We'll get there.
A slippery one at that. 2 steps forward, and then you slide on your ass, and then you take some steps back.
Yeah.
So just that's what I say, and I don't mean that to be pessimistic. I'm just saying it's all about perspective too. That, think about the problems we're having now. Our spectators are too loud. We have too many walking around, but yet we want more money and we want everything infused and we want, all these opportunities. So
I went someplace where there were a ton of spectators and it was really dry.
I'll let you then complete your statement.
Alpine Valley.
Oh, okay. Which
Valley.
is not necessarily normal out there, right?
Well, I mean, any given particular. For those of you that don't know Alpine Valley, imagine if you know if you're familiar with Red Rocks, it's a giant amphitheater, but rather than being built out of rocks, it's built on a hill, and so the last 2/3 of it is nothing but a grass, just regular whatever. I've been to Alpine Valley 3 times now. All 3 of them actually have seen Rage Against the Machine there. The first 2 were both wet and muddy. And what happens is you have a giant hill with a bunch of drunk people who just become mud people. And it becomes a giant mudslide. This was the first time I've ever sat in the grass seats. Thankfully, it was a gorgeous night. There was not a drop of humidity in the air. In fact, I got sunburnt on my left arm and my right leg. So just based on the way I was sitting kind of cross-legged and trying to hide from the sun with my big floppy hat on, almost Ricky style, but it's a little bit different. And I got a little sunburn. So funny thing is, this was on Saturday. I'm walking to meet a friend who was at the concert as well. A bunch of people that were in the Wisconsin area were at this concert, but a friend of mine was there. I get over by the merch tent, and I turn, and there's a guy in a Macbeth shirt. Not the Macbeth shirt that he had on, thankfully, but it had a silhouette of Paul, and on the back it just said Macbeth. And I was standing there because I told my buddy, I'm like, hey, meet me by the merch tent, because there's this big outside merch tent where everyone kind of congregates. I'm waiting, and this guy's standing in line, and they're not making any progress. So finally, I just kind of walk over, and I tap him on the shoulder. I'm like, hey, I don't know this person. I said, did you know it's Paul's birthday today? Because it was on Saturday. And he turns around, and he was a little bit inebriated. And this is probably about 3 o'clock it was 5 o'clock in the afternoon. He goes, actually, no, I didn't. Thanks, buddy. And he was with like 3 or 4 of his friends. And at that point, once I saw how inebriated he was, I was like, cool, have a great day, pal. Have a good one. And I kind of just walked away, ended up finding my friend Adam, and whatever. We hung out and kind of pre-gamed a little bit. But I did think it was funny that the people whose car was 2 down from us, one guy was wearing a disc golf shirt, brought out a couple putters to play around. They brought out Can Jam for a little while. Brock and I were debating whether we wanted to walk over and try to play, but instead we kind of hung out and just had some food and drink. But a lot of disc golf right now around. No matter where you go, Alpine Valley fits, I think there were 30,000 people there at Alpine Valley. It was packed. Like it was, as Matty O would say, balls to the pedal to the metal.
That's a line of his?
Yeah. I think that was an interview he did. He was like, because I think he was going to say balls to the wall, but he said like balls to the pedal to the metal or something is what Matty O had said in one of his interviews this weekend. So either way, phenomenal show as well. The guys are in their 50s now, which kind of boggles my mind, and ran around like they were in their 20s. So couldn't complain. I heard they played another show just a few days ago, yesterday. And in Chicago,
I was gonna say, I think we know people in Chicago.
Yeah, and the lead singer Zach De La Roca, like tripped and hurt his leg or something, and so he was sitting the whole show as he was singing, which to me sounds insane based on how much he jumped and moved and screamed and yelled and did the whole thing. And of course, this may sound stupid to say, but we found in our section, I swear to God, one of the only mosh pits in the entire place showed up right in front of us. And normally you'd think it's a Rage Against the Machine show. There's probably a dozen of them. I looked around it in the grass seats. I couldn't find another one. But yet these 25-year-old college bros, or 23-year-old, whatever they were, after Run the Jewels played, first rap concert I've ever been to, so that's good. After they played, everyone kind of filtered forward. And we were probably about maybe 100 feet from the Guardian. Suddenly there was where it was, everyone was kind of cool and calm and spread out. Right before Rage showed up, everybody filtered forward and we stayed where we were. So suddenly there's these guys in front of us, and they, like about a third of the way through the concert, one guy goes, "Tarps off, tarps off." And I'm like, what is that? And he turned and he's taking off his shirt. And at that point, then it was just no holds barred. These guys, there were 3 girls in front of us. I think they were the girlfriends. And these guys are just ramming into each other like an old school mosh pit, like something I haven't seen at a concert, and I'm old now.
I was going to say,
in a long
this
time.
crowd is getting older.
It is, because I looked around and I was like, wow, there's some young people here, but for the most part, everyone here is like 30 to 50.
Yeah.
And we're all raging against the machine as we go back to our corporate jobs on Monday, probably. So
sellouts.
Yeah. Again, I can't. If you get the chance to go see them, it's an experience well worth it.
Speaking of experiences, I just saw it on the Instagrams. Holly Finley, who has very much flown under the radar for it being known that she's eligible for Pro Masters Worlds. We saw her, I think, sitting in second place right now.
She is.
She carded a World's Ace today, so congratulations to her. It's on her Instagram.
8, I think
Hole
I saw
8,
it at Northwoods
I believe.
Blue.
Yeah, so congratulations to Holly Finley snagging an ace today at the Worlds. That's no better time, obviously, to get an ace than at the World Championships. So congrats to her. It looks like it was actually even filmed by somebody. from a phone or something. So you can find that on Holly's Instagram. Congrats. I just saw it for the first time myself.
Cool thing about my concert, this is the first show they've played in 11 years.
Yeah,
this
because
opened
you were supposed to go
2 years ago. Yeah, and then pandemic and everything got pushed back. But then they were supposed to do like an early season half of the tour. That got canceled due to some COVID reasons, I think. So this was literally the opening show of their tour, of which they haven't toured in 11, like never. So they did some really good practicing, clearly.
Okay. Massive J says Matty O's dad, Jim Orem, is in the Hall of Fame now. Yes, they had the Hall of Fame ceremonies, I believe, last night. What day is it? Tuesday? So I believe it was, I apologize. I don't know if it was Monday night or Sunday night for the players. I think it was last night. So congratulations to any and all new Hall of Fame members. Matty O's dad had passed away, I believe, a few months ago now, and he talked a little bit about it during the press conference, actually. I feel like at one point Matty O even made a post and said something about, I'm not playing any PDGA events until my dad's in the Hall of Fame, which, to be fair, the PDGA and the Hall of Fame are in fact very separate.
Yeah.
The PDGA supports the Hall of Fame, and there's clearly a lot of carryover and interweaving there. However, the PDGA does not run the Disc Golf Hall of Fame. It is entirely its own separate entity, its own everything. Books, accounting, people, curators, all of that are separated from the PDGA. So I want to make that very clear. I think a lot of people do not realize that.
Everyone thinks they're together, and they work together.
And it makes sense. Don't get me wrong. I don't think you're crazy or stupid if you thought that, but it is worth a distinction. And I guess to quickly bring up another point in the board, one thing that really made me realize in listening to some of the board interviews that I was referencing earlier on the podcast was just that I think one of my biggest frustrations in hearing, someday I'll run for the board maybe, but hearing statements made are when I feel like people and their complaints are either complaints and or platforms and or positions, I think are just inherently off from the get-go. So it's like you have a take on something, which I'm good with, but the problem is like your foundation is already incorrect. So then your take isn't heading in the right direction. And I feel like, of course, that's just general misinformation in general anywhere. It doesn't have anything to do necessarily with disc golf. But I feel like a lot of times I hear things said that are like, well, the PDGA should do this, or so-and-so shouldn't do this, or, here I'm barking about this. And it's like, but wait, you're not even blaming the right people. And that is just, I feel like I heard some of that within what I listened to today in the board interviews. I was like, I have a hard time getting behind you because I don't feel like your premise is right in the first place in what you're speaking of. So Ryan Pilcher says, speaking of Hall of Fame ceremonies, congratulations, Tom McManus, PDGA 1276. He got inducted into the Illinois Disc Golf Hall of Fame.
Shout out to Tom.
Yeah, that took place this weekend as well at the Illinois State Championships. I believe it's been happening there at that event for the last couple of years. Tom had asked me if I would, in fact, be his presenter, of which I would have done in a heartbeat in person, except for I was already locked into being at Idlewild. So I put together a little video that they were able to show at the event, and awesome. I guess it was well received, and most importantly, Tom is in the Illinois Hall of Fame. So congratulations to good old Tom McManus.
Patreon.com/SmashboxTV.
That'll get you it.
That will get you that'll get you in your state's Hall of Fame. If you support us enough, we will make a video for you to get you into your Hall of Fame.
We will create our own platform, or our own.
Yeah, so it's the Patreon Hall of Fame, we call it. We will get you into that. Every state has their own Patreon Hall of Fame, so please start giving now in order to be in your Patreon State Hall of Fame. You can start at Smashbox, patreon.com/SmashboxTV. So please give to get into your own Hall of Fame. This week, we're going to give something away, Terry. We're going to give away the disc member package I have right over here. I'm going to reach for it.
Disc member.
It's right here. I don't want to show my address, although it's not hard to find. So this is from Disc Store, which is part of Disc Member. This is a monthly subscription box that you can be a part of for, I believe it's $25 a month. Forgive me if I'm wrong on that. I haven't looked in a while, but you get at least $25 worth of stuff. Usually it's closer to $40 every month. This one feels a little squishy. I think there might be a t-shirt in here. And I think,
or some boxers.
Could be some boxers or a gold bar. I'm not 100% sure. It's a little light for a gold bar, but I'm just going to guess that it might not be that. So,
yeah, well, make sure you go out there and subscribe. It looks like it is a $29.99 is one of the
darn
options.
Inflation. $29.99. Yeah, I believe they have a few different options depending on what you want to get every month. I think they've got a bigger box.
Wow, you can't. Listen to this. We got to get caught up. It says Disc Member is now at 100% capacity. You have to get on their waiting list to possibly become.
All right.
So clearly they're killing it, and people are more than excited to be part of it because it says that they're currently at their capacity and not accepting new members. However, you can subscribe to the wait list to possibly get in on.
Okay, well, get in on that wait list, guys.
Dang.
And girls. So we're going to give this away tonight. I have everybody who has registered on Patreon, as well as the people that went to our weekly giveaways page on the Smashbox TV site. And Terry, that means, let me scroll down here. We have 178 people eligible. 178. How are we going to do this, Terry? What number do you want to draw? I've sorted it by email address in reverse order.
So it's got to be, what did Isaac say he putts with in PA3? So I think 3 is the number.
Is it a PA3? Be sure. Go to prodigydiscs.com and find out for me, Terry.
They don't pay me.
No, but we had Isaac on.
That's true.
So it's right on the front page, so you don't have to worry. It's an M1 and a PA3.
PA 300. So the 300.
The 300. It's the 300 plastic, not the P3. We're going to do 3. So our very first number we draw is 170. Ooh, our second number is 119. Terry, higher or lower than 119?
Higher.
The third number is 38, so you were way wrong. Number 38. Let me scroll down to that so I don't show everyone's where they live. And 38 is R. Justin Daniel.
Nice.
R. Justin Daniel. So congratulations, R. Justin. We're going to write that right now on the box so we don't forget. And Terry will be reaching out to you to get you to get your address so we can ship that to you sometime in the future. Hopefully sooner than later. But Terry's going to Europe, so you might have to,
Let's see if we can get him out before I go. That'd be ideal.
That would be ideal, but ignore the dents in the box.
Didn't just do that.
So congratulations. Phil Mill says, all those tabs. Yeah, this is my work / broadcast / look things up computer. So I do have a lot of tabs. What do I got here? I got Live View. I got a couple spreadsheets, Facebook, Instagram, Reddit, Discord, Skip Ace, of course, Gmail, calendar. It's got a lot of stuff going on.
Dang.
Got a lot of stuff
going
on. I don't. That's the best part.
All right. I don't know if we have anything else that we need to cover. I plugged the Maple Hill Invitational. Some fresh content that I haven't had a lot of new stuff on my page in a while, so hope you guys enjoy that. Is there anything else we need to talk about on here within the group?
There isn't. I'll be talking to you in the morning after you leave and then go to the studio. So let's wrap this up here tonight, Tear Bear.
All right. And yes, Massive J, just to answer you, though, I know you asked earlier. Yeah, Johnny and I, back in like 1999
I didn't do
or
it.
8.
You can't find the body.
Did, in fact, meet Jim Oram. We had visited. We went down to Mobile. We were down there for spring break, playing as many courses as we could. We always say people went to Cozumel and Mexico and drank margaritas and got drunk, and we went and played every disc golf course that we could possibly find because we're cool like that.
I really honestly remembered that walking through Jim's house, Sky South, and seeing all the Sky South bags, particularly he had, and just a bunch of discs at his house, and probably running into a very young Matty O at the time. But I can't say for sure because I don't remember that. But I'm assuming he was around.
Well, in 2005 he was 16. So 7 years earlier, he was like a 9-year-old, something like that. So, yeah, pretty crazy. And congratulations, like we said, again to him. All right, guys, we're going to close it out. We wish everyone at the Junior and Pro Master, not just Pro Masters, Junior and Masters Worlds, Pro and Amateur. We wish them all the best of luck. Have fun. I think there's like 13 courses in play. When it's all said and done, huge tip of the hat to the crew over there at Ledgestone, who I know are going to be working along with the PDGA to pull off the event this week. And we're looking forward to you guys, of course, joining us as we bring you 2 beautiful courses in Norway over the next 4 days on the Disc Golf Network. So, again, congrats to Isaac and Katrina, your champions at Idlewild, the LWS Open at Idlewild this weekend. For Johnny V and myself, the Disc Golf Guy, we'll see you guys. We'll see you guys tomorrow, and then we'll see you again next Tuesday. We'll see you then when you step inside the Smash Box.